Imagine you are reading a storybook about a handsome prince. In this story, the prince lives in a giant stone castle with many rules. One day, he meets a beautiful woman who tells him she can help him escape. She promises him a life of total freedom, where no one will tell him what to do and no one will watch his every move. He believes her, leaves his family, and moves across the ocean to a sunny land full of palm trees and movie stars. Everyone watching thinks it is the most romantic thing they have ever seen. They think they are watching a real-life fairy tale come true. But what happens when the prince wakes up and realizes that his new life is not a dream, but a different kind of trap? What if the freedom he was promised was just a fancy story told to make him leave his home? Today, we are going to look at why Prince Harry looks so sad lately. We will look at why his smiles have disappeared and why people think his big fairy tale is falling apart. It is a story about big choices, big secrets, and a prince who might finally be seeing the truth. This is not just about a famous couple. It is about what happens when you give up everything for a dream that might not be real. Let's be totally honest for a second. Prince Harry looks really, really tired. I am not talking about the kind of tired you feel after a long day at school or a big soccer game. I am talking about a deep, heavy tiredness that goes all the way down to his soul. It is the kind of tired that happens when you start to realize that your whole life might be based on a big, expensive lie. Recently, cameras saw him walking around in New York City. Usually when a prince is out, he has a big smile or a happy sparkle in his eyes. But this time there was nothing. No happy face, no waving at the crowd. He just had a faraway look in his eyes. It looked like he was quietly asking himself, "What have I done?" He looked like someone who had made a huge mistake and was just now starting to figure it out. His shoulders looked heavy, like he was carrying a big weight that no one else could see. People watching him felt like they were seeing a man who was very lonely, even though he was in a city full of millions of people. People who know Harry well say that he has been talking to his close friends in secret. He has supposedly told them that his life does not look anything like he thought it would. Remember, this is the same man who told the whole world he wanted to get away from the cameras. He said he wanted to leave the palace so he could have peace and privacy. He wanted to be a regular person who could walk down the street without everyone staring. Well, he definitely got the cameras, but he did not get any of the peace. In fact, it seems like things are louder and busier now than they ever were before. This is where the truth starts to hurt. Some people say Harry is finally realizing that the woman he thought would set him free has actually built him a new kind of prison. This new prison is very pretty, of course. It has a big pool and a giant house and fancy clothes, but it is still a cage. It is a place where he has to follow new rules and act a certain way to make his life look perfect. When people whisper that Harry is finally telling the truth about Meghan, this is what they mean. You can see the sadness written all over his face. He doesn't have to say a word for us to know he has big regrets. There was a big event called the Project Healthy Minds meeting. Everyone was watching Harry and Meghan very closely. Usually they do things to show the world they're very much in love. They usually hold hands tightly or Meghan will give Harry's hand a little squeeze. It's like they're telling everyone, we are a team and no one can hurt us. But at this event, things were very different. Instead of being close, there was a lot of distance between them. There was a lot of silence. The most shocking part was that Harry could not even look at his wife. For 30 very long, very awkward seconds, Harry just stood there. He looked stiff and very uncomfortable. His whole body seemed to be screaming something that his lips were too afraid to say. He looked everywhere except at Meghan. In that moment, the perfect couple image seemed to break into pieces. This was supposed to be their big moment to show everyone they were still the golden couple of Hollywood. But instead, it just looked like a man who was trying to force a smile while feeling very sad inside. When you spend your whole life in front of cameras, you learn how to act. You learn how to pretend to be happy even when you are not. But there is one thing you cannot fake, and that is energy. You can fake a hug, but you cannot fake the feeling of being truly happy. One person who was there that night said it was the night Harry stopped pretending. Sources say that Meghan was really worried about how awkward they looked on the red carpet. She wanted to change the story and make it look like they were still very happy. She wanted to show the world something soft and sweet to cover up the coldness. Some people even say that her team used computer tricks like AI to edit videos of them. They wanted to make it look like Harry was touching her back in a sweet way. Her fans saw those clips and said, "See, they are still in love," but people who were actually there said that never happened. They said the sweet moment was just a trick of the light or a computer edit. It was just another layer of makeup on a picture that was already falling apart. Meghan supposedly told her team that they had to look happy no matter what, but you cannot just make happiness in a computer. Behind the perfect pictures was a woman trying to save a story that was slipping away, while the man next to her was tired of playing the game. Then something happened that made things even worse. This was the moment when Hollywood started to pull away from them. A famous magazine called People ran a big story. The headline said that Harry and Meghan went on a double date with the famous singer Ed Sheeran. It sounded like a cozy, romantic night out with famous friends. But just a few hours later, that story fell apart like a house of cards. Ed Sheeran's team went to the news and said the story was not true. They said he was not there with them at all. He had gone to the restaurant with his own friends, he sat at a different table, and he had nothing to do with Harry and Meghan. What really happened? People say Meghan saw Ed Sheeran outside and decided to use the moment. She might have had someone take a quick blurry video from far away so it looked like they were together. The next day, that video was online making it look like they were best friends, but Ed Sheeran was not happy. He reportedly told his team to make sure his name stayed out of their stories. This was a big sign that the famous people in Hollywood were starting to get tired of the drama. They didn't want to be part of the fairy tale anymore. It wasn't just Ed Sheeran who wanted to stay away. Other very famous people, like Gwyneth Paltrow and Cameron Diaz, started to keep their distance too. One by one, the doors that used to open for Meghan Markle began to close shut. When they first moved to California, everyone wanted to be their friend. But now, people are starting to whisper. They are asking, if the cameras don't love her anymore, who does? You can use all the filters and pretty lights you want, but you cannot hide the truth forever. It is especially hard to hide the truth when the one man who once fought the whole world for you cannot even fake a smile when he is standing next to you. As Harry started to pull away and look for his own space, Meghan reportedly started to try even harder to keep control. She began calling her old lawyers and her old PR teams. She wasn't calling them to say hello, she was calling them to make a plan. People think she is getting ready for a life after Harry. The secret files. There are even darker rumors going around now. Some people say that Meghan has been keeping secret things. They say she has private recordings, old messages, and videos of Harry and his royal family. People on the street are saying these files are like her insurance policy. That means she's keeping them hidden unless she really needs to use them to get what she wants. It is a very scary thought. It is said that her longtime friend Marcus Anderson is one of the only people left who is still helping her. He is like a quiet coach helping her plan her next move, but the world is looking at her differently now. Before, people felt sorry for her. Now, people are watching her very closely to see if she is being honest. Every move she makes looks like she is trying to defend herself. The woman who used to control every news story is now the one running away from them. As one person in Hollywood said, she isn't just losing the spotlight, she is fighting the light because it is showing too much. The words that shocked everyone. Somewhere between all the flashing lights and the lonely dinners, something inside Prince Harry changed. People close to him say he finally admitted something very sad. He reportedly told his friends that Meghan was not the person he thought she was. He used a very haunting phrase, "I was fooled." Those 3 words shocked even his oldest friends. Think about it. This is the man who moved across the world for her. He is the man who argued with his own brother and father to protect her. He gave up his home, his job, and his country for her. But now he feels like he lost a war that he started himself. Harry always cared about loyalty. He was loyal to his wife and his new life. But the freedom he thought he found didn't feel like being free at all. It felt like being sent away to a place where he didn't belong. People who see him now say his smile never reaches his eyes. He looks like he is standing in the middle of a mess that he made himself, and he doesn't know how to clean it up. Living on different planets. By this time, the problems between them were huge. Harry and Meghan were still married on paper, but in their hearts they were living in 2 different worlds. Harry was seen eating dinner all by himself in New York. He was laughing and talking with friends, and he actually looked happy for a change. He looked relaxed, which is something we haven't seen in a long time. At the exact same time, Meghan was out in a different place. She was having dinner with a big talent agent and smiling perfectly for the cameras. It was like they were living 2 completely separate lives. People who know them call it a quiet separation. They haven't told the lawyers yet, and they haven't made a big announcement, but they are building lives that don't touch each other anymore. Even their bodyguards are different now. Harry has his own security when he is alone, and Meghan has photographers who just happen to be there whenever she walks out of a building. The red carpet is gone, the fairy tale is over, and what is left are 2 people who want very different things. One of them is chasing the cameras, and the other one is trying to hide from them. The end of the story. A long time ago, this was called the greatest love story of our time. It was about a prince who gave up his crown for love and an actress who promised to save him. But fairy tales always fade when real life starts. Today, that story is a warning for everyone else. It reminds us that love built on fighting and rebellion can burn very bright at first, but it can also burn out very fast. Harry was the little boy who had to walk behind his mother's coffin while the whole world watched. He spent his whole life trying to protect Meghan from the same mean things people said about his mom, but in trying to protect her, he might have walked right into a different kind of cage. This cage wasn't built by the king or the queen, it was built by his own choices. And Meghan, the woman who turned every problem into a way to get famous, is now standing on the stage she built. She is realizing that people don't clap forever. Their story started with beautiful fireworks and big speeches about being brave. Now it is ending with silence. And sometimes silence is much louder than a big fight. But even though it sounds like the end, it might just be a break. When people build their whole lives on how they look to others, the fall is never really the end. It is just the moment before the next part of the story begins. As Meghan tries to invent a new version of herself and Harry tries to find the man he used to be, one big question is left. When love turns into a fight just to survive, who are you supposed to be once the cameras go dark? The story isn't over yet. The next chapter is already being written, and it might be the most shocking one of all.